Hey, good evening, y'all. I know this video is a little later than usual. It's it's like 2 a.m. here. I had work and then like I actually went for a run before work, so hooray me. And I worked a longer shift than usual at my temp job. Holidays and everything, they need extra help. And then my friend Jana came over, which was a lot of fun and very wonderful. And she gave me this beautiful eyeshadow palette that I'm really excited to try out because I don't usually play with makeup a whole heck of a lot. And I've always wanted to get some crazy colors to use for eyeshadow or lipstick or whatever. And she gave me this beautiful eyeshadow palette that's like Beetlejuice themed and has amazing fun colors, very it's so funny. She said it was like punk rock, and I'm like, it totally is. It's very like Halloween and very I don't know, just very fun. And I'm really excited to try all those colors. There's like greens and purples and silvers, and it just looks like a lot of fun. So I'm really stoked about that. And I'll get some makeup brushes and probably play around with that this week. Why not? There's a green, it'll be fun for the holidays. Just go for it. um that was really nice. And then I was kind of trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my night, but I had a little bit of a neck ache headache thing going on. And I don't know if it's from maybe I'm under caffeinated or something, and it just really knocked me out. So I took a 5-hour nap. And this is very reminiscent of how my sleep schedule used to look before I had a full-time job. So this is me. Uh, it is what it is. I'm not being too hard on myself. Mark and Ethan got to release a video at a certain time every day because that's their job. My job is not to do that. My job is to show up at my workplaces because I am just a regular old working class American citizen. So that is what it is. It's cool. So, for Unisana's tribute, I just, I lived my day as fully as I could, as my mind and my body would let me. I went for a run. Like I did. I have no regrets. I'm not a person that lives with a lot of regrets. I have one whole regret that I can ever think of in my life. And, anyways, that all aside, Unis Honest, a year ago, they made a really great video. It was called "What Was the Most Painful Thing We've Ever Endured?" This is another one I would have loved to have kept. I thought it was really neat. They took a 1 to 10 scale of physical pain, and looked at their different memories associated with that. I think for Oh yeah, I don't have all their specifics. They made this really neat chart. I'm pretty sure that that's the standard scale that is used in hospitals and in doctors' visits and everything, like that 1 to 10 scale. And they have all these faces associated with it, and they're some of them are kind of awkward looking faces. It's just kind of funny. But so they have that, and they just look through their memories. And for Ethan, it was a lot of gymnastic pain, and for Mark, it was a lot of medical pain. And Mark has been through some stuff. Let me tell you, he's got to have a high pain tolerance because wow. Um, and Ethan, yeah, he had things where, yeah, he said his hands would, peel off from doing so many things with bars and whatever, or hitting your leg against a pommel horse or whatever, all that sort of thing. So, to tribute that, I'm gonna kind of talk about kind of the pain I've dealt with, and they just did physical pain this one, and I think they did another one later on that was emotional pain. So that's really interesting. So, physical pain, headaches bothers. So for me, headaches bother me, but I wouldn't say that they're really terrible pain. Um, for me, it's interesting that Ethan has so many gymnastic pain, because definitely there's a lot of pain that athletes have to tolerate. And I've seen some of that. I've done taekwondo sparring, and Taekwondo related activities. Sometimes just the soreness after a really good workout. Like I remember we would do team training on Saturday mornings, and I would just my mom, like especially in high school, my mom would just prepare like an Epsom salt bath for me, and I would like take a bath and go the hell to sleep around like 2 p.m. because it would just be like, I don't know if it was like 7 or 8. It was like a 4 hour training. We like go for a mile run or do some aerobics, do our drills, and then there would be a sparring class at 10 a.m. that everybody would be invited to, everybody from the school, and we would just kind of pair up and spar, and then the rest of the competition team would either continue practice sparring or continue forms, which is kind of more my vibe. I like doing that more choreographed and like um, solo athleticism, solo activity, something that I could practice by myself. So I need to get back into my taekwondo. Like that's just those are facts. Honestly, like pulling like uh, pulling muscles, pulling tendons. It's like for tendons, which are connective tissue that is associated with muscle and bone. That is a strain, while a sprain is ligaments. So that's ligaments, and then tendons are like bone to bone. Um, that is a sprain. Like if you sprain your ankle, there is a connective tissue that gets like torn or inflamed or whatever. So I've definitely sprained my ankle a couple times because we would like practice in this big old parking lot, and there was a lot of like irregularities within the parking lot, and it wasn't like a common thing that everybody would just like screw up their ankle, but we used to do this thing where we would do the high knees. We would be jumping up like, but we would be going backwards, and there was one time where I totally hit like something in the parking lot, wrecked my ankle for like 2 weeks. So those are things I've done. But honestly, like there was one time, like I remember sparring with, we would actually, one thing I really like that our school does as well is when we would practice sparring, like in competition, it's divided by gender, but when we would practice sparring, we would, we would practice against whoever, like it didn't matter, male or female, like we were a team, we would work as a team. We wouldn't divvy it up, and I really think that's good, and that's a good thing because I think it's important to train with with everybody you possibly can, and I think there are actually studies where if women train with men, they tend to either be more competitive or do better, or just like have more training, and it's interesting. I think that like you can't just say like a blanket statement, I think, for training with other genders. I think it's an interesting concept. I think there's a lot more research that can be done on it. There are some studies that say all sorts of different things, and I think that's important going forward, studying the differences with different sports and gender, because I think that there are some sports that definitely can be practiced at the same capacity and performed at the same capacity between genders. I think that there are some sports that potentially one of the genders may have a advantage because with the current science that we have found that women tend to have more muscle fibers that work with endurance. Like women might be better at marathons, while men might have more of these like quick, one and done, like weightlifting. And I honestly couldn't tell you like the deadlift records for either gender. Definitely, here's the thing though too, like there are definitely some women who are incredibly powerful, like done powerlifting, and it's just like insane. So like I think we need to kind of challenge the notion that women can't lift or that men can't do long distance. You know, like I think that we need to definitely kind of poke into that and see how that's different than our preconceived notions of what gender is, because both genders have been found, like women have definitely been found to be able to train their muscle fibers in certain ways. So I think if you're really a dedicated athlete, I think that the quickest sprinter was a woman for broke some record of sprinting. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you names, but Google it. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff out there. But anyway, so we would train with each other, and I think honestly the most painful sparring injury I got was actually when I was sparring with another woman. Her nickname was Mangler, and like we're still really great friends, which is awesome. But she like I think we like hit knees like while we were doing kicks, and I think like her knee just like plowed through my my shin, and I had this bruise on my shin that was like almost as big as my head. It was just like insane. And like if I actually feel on my shin bone to this day, there's almost like a little bit of an irregularity. Yeah, it's definitely on the right hand side, and it's like it just feels like there's like I don't think you can see it or anything, but it feels like there's like a divot there. That's the that's the sort of yeah, the sort of things we would do. So that was possibly, yeah, the most painful that I can recall. One thing I always remember is very interesting about like having pain like that is sometimes your body doesn't feel the pain or inflammation at the start. And so for me, what would happen is if I got hit with some pain, I would usually, like of course I would go sit to the side and like I would feel it, you do the rice wrist ice compression elevate. For our team we'd call it rice its because we would also add ibuprofen and tiger balm for pain management. But like yeah, I remember sitting to the side and holding my leg, but just kind of laughing. Like I don't know why that's a way that I manage pain. I sometimes laugh when I imagine my pain, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens to me emotionally too. I think that I sometimes awkwardly laugh when I'm like not necessarily amused, but just kind of like trying to process the emotion. And I know other people who have done that as well. I think it's a really interesting thing that like some humans do. Sorry, I'm like scratching my legs. You probably hear that. It's just like dry. But yeah, so that's like kind of what comes to mind with like, in regards to like, Ethan has all this gymnastics. And honestly, like Ethan obviously was performing at much higher level than I was. I just kind of was like casually competing within like just little like local and statewide things. I think like we went to like I don't even know like Chicago or something a couple of times, but that wasn't the Hamadan. Wasn't ever for sparring. The Hamadan is mostly forms and board breaks. Um, but yeah, honestly, yeah, like breaking a board is not painful. It's more painful to not break through a board. But I would say like for me, that's like I don't even know, like a three, like not breaking through a board. For maybe like more that with some of the more um, some techniques like hurt more than others if you don't break through the board too. Like if you don't break through the board on a side kick, it's like a one. But if you don't break through the board on like a roundhouse kick, something that hits like the top of your foot, um, that might be like a three or a four. So it depends. But yeah, I would say like the bruise pain that I got that one time, I'd like take that up to like yeah, 5 or a 6. And like yeah, spraining my ankle, that's definitely like yeah, 6. That kind of a little more than just middling. Like so I like to think I have a pretty high pain tolerance. But like I don't know. Then I see stuff that Mark does and I'm like, maybe I have like a medium pain tolerance. I remember one time this person was just being kind of awful to me and always telling me like I had no pain tolerance, but I was going through some stuff and we're not going to talk about that. Headaches, I would say like on the pain scale like 3, 4, maybe for like the more migrainy ones like maybe it's been like a 6 or a 7 like tops, but like honestly, I think it's just the annoyance and like the sort of like visual and mental disorientation that's like more annoying for me. Like it's just so like it's so frustrating. Like so I would say that. And then um I guess this is like for like more medical pain. Like I haven't been through anything like Mark has. I've never been like through surgery. Knock on wood, right? But like Uh, like, I'm trying to think because I know I've definitely like one thing that was really painful for me, and this has happened a couple times, but like, sorry, this is TMI, but getting a UTI, like that might have been the worst pain. There was one time I actually did go to the ER because I like thought like I kind of had a UTI, but I was trying to like, drink cranberry juice, all the things they tell you to do. Um, but like the thing was that um like this one, like literally I woke up in the middle of the night and like my sides had this like shooting pain, and I was like, I cannot sleep and I need to go somewhere. And I called my dad or I called my mom or whatever, and they took me to the ER. And uh I just remember like being like in the hospital bed or whatever, the little room, and like that was like a whole thing. But they like gave me an antibiotic and I was fine. And I think I've dealt with like a UTI like one or two other times. But that hasn't been too bad. That's been like to 4 or 5 on the pain scale. But like the one time I went to the hospital, like that was probably like a 9. Like I can't remember, but it was that really that really was because it was just like the whole body pain I was dealing with. So that's all I can really think of when I think of like painful memories, physical pain that I've endured. But I fancy myself a bit like Mark. I kind of like to see like what I can endure. Like I try not to take ibuprofen if I'm just having a kind of generic headache or body ache. But definitely there are times where it does help. Like I'll, kind of be sore after working out and I'll have a headache and I'll take an ibuprofen. I'm like, wow, I feel better like 20 minutes later. And it's like, well, duh, because you just had like an ibuprofen and that totally helped with all of your inflammation and all of your body. So, um, yeah, and like general muscle aches, I guess, like, like maybe at 4 tops, like, so there's my kind of an unofficial thing. And I feel like they put the paintball gun on that one? I can't remember. Maybe they put that one on a different one. But I remember I think they had reviewed I think they rewatched this one during the live stream too. And I feel like there was like a gun on the chart and Ethan's like, what the fuck? Why is there a gun? And like I don't know if they ever even remembered it was for the paintball gun or what. But yeah, that's all I really got tonight. I'm sorry, this was like a super long video. I meant to just kind of make it short because I'm already late. But yeah, I'm gonna get some more rest because I still have work tomorrow and I got like so much to do on Wednesday. Life is full, but we're getting through it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.